What's up? In this video, we are going to cover how to replace the preset landscape grass in the Aziel art material with your own either foliage or grasses that you download or make yourself. So the first thing that we're going to do is come over and look at where the landscape grass is being referenced in the material so you know where to find it. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on my landscape here, open the material instance, and I'll use that to go ahead and open the master material here. Okay, so looking at the actual material here, all of the landscape grass functions are over here at the end underneath the section that's called ground cover landscape grass. This is all of the logic I've set up to mask the grass based on what landscape layer you're using and so on. You know, have the grass not show up under the snow or in puddles, all that good stuff. So, and I have a bunch of here switches for turning them on and off. But really the only thing that you need to care about here if you want to change the landscape grass is come here to the landscape grass output. Now, if we go ahead and expand this, this has three inputs: landscape grass, rocks, and rock snow, which is like a separate version of the rocks with a snow material on it so that it fits with the snowy area. So if we want to adjust the landscape grass here, we have two options. We can either open up this landscape grass asset and change that source asset, or we can duplicate it and make our own. I prefer to duplicate this landscape grass type and make my own just so I have the preset one to fall back on if for some reason I want to go back to it. So let's go ahead and find where this is located in the material folders. So if I come over here to my Aziel Arts material and I come to the landscape grass foliage, this is where all the landscape grass assets are, both the textures and the meshes that I'm using for the grass and the rocks. So we can find here the landscape grass type. So if we come here and duplicate the grass one, we can go ahead and double click on that new one to open it. And if we expand it, we can see each of these index numbers is a separate grass option. So if we expand the first one here and I go over to my grass that I have downloaded, in this case I've downloaded some grass from Fab, and I come over here and I can grab one of my grass meshes and drag it in. I will say that generally if you can use grass clumps instead of single grass kind of blades of grass, but instead clumps of grass areas, that will definitely help you fill your landscape with more density and in a more efficient manner. That's what I'm using here, and so I recommend you kind of use that same methodology to use a clump of grass area. So I have this first one down here, and now I can come over and replace this one with a slightly different clump. And this one, I'm using some individual blades here to add some variation for index 2. So I might grab this one instead of that grass there. And 3, same, I'll just grab one of these other mesh options. And again, you don't need to use so many options here. This is just one that I've the amounts that I've preset to get a kind of varied look using this asset. You could, delete all of these and just use the first one if you wanted to as well. So now that I added that in, I can go ahead and save. And now let's go back into our master material. So in our master material, we just need to replace our grass type, the first one, with our new duplicated version, which should show up right away here under grass 1. Once we've changed that, we can go ahead and hit save. Replace the grass. Don't, freak out if it doesn't show up right away because sometimes it just doesn't know it needs to update. So if my grass is not updating right away after I've changed it, it might be because Unreal Engine doesn't even realize it needs to update the grass. It can be pretty buggy actually with landscape grass, getting your computer to update it and refresh it right away. And so I usually try a few things in order to get it to, usually it updates eventually, but sometimes you need to kind of try a few things to get Unreal Engine to realize it needs to update it. First thing is just to reopen the level and see if that works. So I'll double click on my level and save everything and let it reopen here. Might need to give it a few moments to actually update. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and fix this shadow artifact that appears occasionally when I reopen the level, which I've mentioned in other videos, but the easy way to fix that is just to come up to the build dropdown and choose pre-compute static visibility, which usually tends to fix that artifact. If it still doesn't update, usually I'll come over to the actual material instance and come up to use ground cover and just turn it off and on again. And then it does tend to actually show up. For me, I usually use nanite based grass here. So I'm going to go ahead and convert these billboard grass to nanite meshes. So I'm going to come over to where I've saved those meshes here under Fab, Megascans, Plants. And we will go ahead and take those and right click and convert them to nanite. And then again, I will turn off the grass and on again to get it to show up. There we go. So that's our new grass. Now, if we want to adjust the density of our grass, that is done over here in the grass asset here that we made and duplicated. So I'm going to come over here, and under the index 0 here, we can try increasing our grass density. So if I go ahead and increase that, that will go ahead and start spreading the grass throughout my level here. We can go and experiment with different densities. I will say the denser you make your grass, of course, the higher hit it will be on your frame rate. So just keep that in mind. You can see why using larger clumps of grass can be useful to help, fill in the gap in your grasses. Last thing I will say is that I use a material function in order to have the grass nicely blend out into the distance here. You can see we're getting a decent blending, but sometimes we may encounter an issue where you see this hard line in the distance. And so I'm using a material function here to gradually blend out the opacity of our grass here in the distance. You can find that function under material functions, and it's this function here, mf opacity fade. So if we want to add this to our grass here so that we can get rid of this line here in the distance, we can come over to our grass, open it up, open up the material, and we'll open up the master material here, and I'll come out here, and we will go ahead and drag our opacity fade into the material. And all you need to do is have it come in between the existing opacity of your material and the opacity mask output of your grass. So once we've done that, we go ahead and hit save. We can go ahead and open the distance culling option in our material and turn it on. And now you can see the grass in the distance is starting to blend out. And I usually change this to be around 6,000 in the fade range, and the camera offset I usually put at 6,000 as well. So you can now see that it more gradually fades the grass out into the distance. That's how you replace the landscape grass with your existing full aging grass. Hopefully you found this helpful. I will see you in the next one.